good evening, and welcome to another spooky episode of Codo Cinema, the podcast show where I talk about movies. I bid you welcome as your host, the man, the myth, the legend, the horror, Mark Codo, aka Codo Man. So anyway, how about another top 10 list? Well, I've already done another. I already done a top 10 list already for the top 10 darkest and scariest movie moments from Marvel. Why not do another top 10 list, but this time the top 10 darkest and scariest movie moments part 3. Yeah, for those who don't know, I have done parts 1 and 2 already of the top 10 darkest and scariest movie moments. So, third time's the charm, I guess. Well, fourth time overall, but third time if you take out the Marvel equation. But anyway, I'm gonna do another list. So yeah, that's gonna be good and scary too. And if you think I'm missing a few, don't forget to check out my top 10 darkest and scariest movie moments, parts 1 and 2, on the WEIU website under radio and through other WEIU podcasts. And don't forget to check out episode 114 of the top 10 darkest and scariest Marvel movie moments. Or should I say, movie moments from Marvel. So, anyway, I'm going to jump into the list. Number 10, the epilogue from Twilight Zone the movie. In the final scene of Twilight Zone the movie, John Valentine, played by John Lithgow, is inside an ambulance being taken to the hospital after a mental nightmare at 20,000 feet. He has a conversation with a very familiar, with a driver, one of the drivers, which has a very familiar face. For those of you who don't know or has not seen, or for those of you who have seen the film, probably know who I'm talking about. But for those who don't know, Dan Aykroyd was the ambulance driver, and he was in the opening scene of Twilight Zone the movie. Now John tells Dan about his scary experience of seeing the gremlin, until Dan Aykroyd asks the question, "Want to see something really scary?" The scene ends with the ambulance driving through the night, with the theme song of the Twilight Zone theme playing in the background. But before that, we see John's face turning towards the camera, wondering what's going to happen next. Now, this is basically a cliffhanger, by the way, which I'm pretty sure that's what many Twilight Zone episodes were doing at the time to end the episode, just to give the audience an idea of what's going to happen next. But instead, it's cliffhanger. Plus, we even get a quote from Rod Serling at the very end, closing the film with a creepy cliffhanger. To quote Rod Serling from the end of the Twilight Zone film, "There is a fifth dimension, beyond that which is known to man. It is a dimension as vast as space and as timeless as infinity. It is the middle ground between light and shadow, between science and superstition, and it lies between the pit of man's sphere and the summit of his knowledge. This is the dimension of imagination. It is an area which we call the Twilight Zone." And then the film ends with the rest of the theme cutting to the end credits. Not only was that ending pretty creepy and dark, but it was meant to set up a sequel, which actually never happened due to the behind-the-scenes trouble that the Twilight Zone film had. But nevertheless, still a creepy ending, though. Moving forward, number 9, The Hobbits versus the Ring Wraiths, from The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. The Lord of the Rings trilogies has its fair share of creepy moments as well. I mean, that's definitely true, because there's been a lot of dark moments in that film. Although the same can be said with The Hobbit. Although I was very tempted to include Bilbo Baggins and Smaug's conversation from the second Hobbit film, because it really got dark pretty quick and creepy as well. It is the it is the ring wraiths going up against the hobbits that takes the number 9 spot. On top of Weathertop, the hobbits, Frodo Baggins, Samwise Gamgee, and Merry and Pippin, are being ambushed by 5 ring wraiths who are hunting down the person who has the one ring. Now, for those of you who have seen the movie, probably already know, I should say, is Frodo Baggins, because Frodo Baggins is the ring barrier. Now, the scene itself is very eerie, dark, and spooky, with all 5 ring wraiths coming together with their swords in hand, ready to slay the hobbits. Now, part of this scene is they're literally on top of Weathertop, and then they are literally surrounded by the ring wraiths, all 5 of them, and also the music as well. Like, the music by Howard Shore gives in a very eerie and creepy tone, especially when you have a background choir. And also, you might actually hear and also for you technically movie buffs, but also music buffs out there. There is a bit of a quote from Dies Irae that you might actually hear in the background if you listen closely. There's like a little bit of a movement quote from Dies Irae. It's just it's like one of those, like, and you need to have a good ear to listen, because like it can go by pretty quick. Like we even get a moment where Frodo puts on the ring and sees the ring wraiths in like their like spiritual human forms, but Frodo gets stabbed, but Aragorn was able to scare off the ring wraiths. But boy, wasn't that scene very creepy for the hobbits? Like, dang, that's pretty creepy. Well, unfortunately, Frodo gets stabbed by a Morgul blade, and he needs to be healed from that. Yeah, not a very good night for the hobbits anyway. Moving forward, number 8, Steppenwolf's Demise and Darkseid's Armada from Zack Snyder's Justice League. Yep, just when you thought I couldn't get past the Zack Snyder's Justice League on this one. I mean, there's a lot of dark moments in that film, but one moment in particular that not only scared a lot of people, but also hyped a lot of people, and it is really Steppenwolf's demise and seeing Darkseid. After the members of the Justice League took out the mother boxes, Steppenwolf, confused and angry, was defeated by Superman after getting one of his I believe a part of his head was blasted off by Superman's laser eyes. I mean, oof, that was brutal. I mean, as Steppenwolf was roaring at the Justice League, he gets impaled from behind by Aquaman's trident in front of an open portal with Darkseid watching. Superman throws in a Superman punch towards Steppenwolf as he sends Steppenwolf flying through the portal, with Wonder Woman cutting off his head. And as Steppenwolf gets inside the portal to his home world of Apocalypse, his head comes off after Wonder Woman slices it off. And to finish it off, Darkseid steps on Steppenwolf's head. Hey, they don't call Steppenwolf for nothing, though. So, anyway, Darkseid stands there, seeing the Justice League as the portal closes. His eyes glow red as he's ready to shoot out a laser beam. One of his servants, Desaad, tells him that Steppenwolf would fail. Darkseid agrees. And then this next part was really pretty creepy and scary too. Is that Desaad asks Darkseid that the mother boxes have been destroyed, how will we treat his great prize? Darkseid said, and I quote,
Anti-life is found sought, and we will stop at nothing to destroy it.
Ready the Armada. We will use the old ways. Yeah, you know, you know what's coming. You know what's coming. He's getting his army ready. He's getting his army ready to get the anti to go to Earth to get the anti-life. You know what he's doing. Even Desaad's face realizes that, oh no, this is not good. This is not good. And as Darkseid walks, his parademon army bows before him, like knowing like this is his master ready. They're ready for the mission. Unfortunately, only time will tell if we're ever gonna get a Justice League sequel. But still, that scene alone still was probably one of the Justice League's darkest and scariest moments to come. Moving forward, number 7, Carrie's Rage from Carrie. The original Carrie, this is the original Carrie by the way, it's prom nights for Carrie, and she was going to be crowned prom queen along with her friend Tommy, who was about to be prom king. Now, the original 1976 Carrie film was directed by Brian De Palma, but it was also based on a Stephen King book, just so everybody knows. However, the moment was ruined for Carrie when Chris and Billy pulled the rope attached to the bucket that is attached to a bucket and was full of pig's blood, dousing Carrie, and then the two sneak out of school. The empty bucket hits the outraged Tommy in the head and collapse. The crowd is left shocked and speechless at the prank. But Carrie hallucinates that everyone, even Miss Collins, is mocking her, and suddenly you can actually hear voices. You can actually hear voices, like from like Carrie's point of view. Like I believe one of them is saying, "Trust me, Carrie. You could trust me. They're all gonna laugh at you," and other things like. Literally, Carrie is literally screaming in agony, overreacting, upset, and angry. And on top of that, that was like the final nail in the coffin, or should I say, the last straw, because in this next part, in a crazy panel edit, through her wide-eye revenge look, she uses her telekinetic powers to seal the doors shut, so that the students nor staff can leave the gym. Like, and she controls a fire hose, injures several partygoers attempting to escape, and sprays the overhead lights. Like she literally went from a prom queen to a literal psychopath after that prank. Mrs. Collins is crushed by a falling basketball backboard, and Carrie's principal and teacher are electrocuted, setting the gym on fire, turning the gym into turning the gym into turning the prom into hell, as a sign of revenge that Carrie is going. Like literally, Carrie was going to be crowned prom queen, but the prank was literally the last straw that will literally unleash hell not only on the prom, but also those who were messing with Carrie. Like, oh my goodness, do you even realize how messed up that is? That is a messed up scene, and a scary one too. Because later on, because well, actually not later on, but it's the look on Carrie's face. It is the wide eye stern you see from Carrie. See, it is really scary. Like the facial look test says it all too, especially when it was covered in pig's blood. I mean, hell, that is actually one of the most scariest scenes that I've ever seen from Carrie. Moving forward, number 6, Lampwick's transformation into a jackass from Walt Disney's Pinocchio. Now, animated films has its fair share of dark and scary moments, and it's not just from Disney, but also other studios too. One scene in particular from 1940s Pinocchio is basically the donkey transformation. P- P- Pinocchio witnesses Lampwick's transformation into a jackass. Basically, from the first time we see this, we see donkey ears growing out of Lampwick's ears. He doesn't even notice it while he's playing pool. While he's playing pool, a tail grows from behind. Pinocchio notices because somehow something's up. So basically, he tosses his cigarette and beer away, knowing it's like, nope, nope, I ain't dealing with this. And then later on, Lampwick's face transforms from his regular face into a donkey face, asking Pinocchio what he looks like. What do you think I look like? A jackass? You sure do. Until then, you get the donkey noise. Hee-haw, hee-haw. Yeah, exactly. But Lampwick notices for a moment that something's going on. He even begs Pinocchio for help. And the last couple of moments is basically his hands turning into hooves, into donkey hooves. Pinocchio sees it all, so scared with the transfer, with literally Lampwick going down on all four, losing his speaking voice, and all he gets is the hee-haw voice. Like, literally, that is not. If you think that's probably one of the most scariest moments from Disney, but it's literally one of the most scariest moments from Disney's Pinocchio. That is literally from the original 1940 Pinocchio film. That is literally one of Pinocchio's darkest and scariest moments. Moving on. Number 5. Sweeney Todd's Final Dance with Mrs. Lovett, from Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. In the final scene of Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street, Sweeney Todd, played by Johnny Depp, goes down to the cellar to see the three dead bodies. Two of them, well, actually, one of them features someone that he actually knows because one of the bodies turns out to be his wife. His wife. Like literally, because the thing is, there was a scene earlier where Sweeney Todd's wife was a beggar, but the fact is, if you remember the film, which is also based on a play based off a play that Stephen Sondheim contribute for the music, where Sweeney Todd was falsely accused, and yet Sweeney Todd's wife was like literally sexually assaulted. Sweeney Todd's wife comes in as a beggar, trying to get Sweeney Todd's attention, but the fact is, Sweeney doesn't even recognize her. It wasn't until the moment when he sees her face, dead, eyes shut, the slit on her throat, and Sweeney realizes his mistake. But the thing is, Mrs. Lovett, played by Helena Bonham Carter, lied to Sweeney Todd because Mrs. Lovett told Sweeney Todd that his wife is dead, which is not true because his wife was alive the whole time. Even in the singing voice, Sweeney realizes like what he has done. Mrs. Lovett tries to comfort him, but in an old fashioned casual way, Sweeney Todd decides to let it go for a moment and dances with Mrs. Lovett for one last time until he throws her into an infernal oven, burning her alive. Like, wow. Because here's the thing, like Mrs. Lovett lied to Sweeney Todd about his wife, and that is not a good sign. Which meant Sweeney Todd's revenge has been double completed because the judge because the judge was also trying to make out with his wife too, and sexually assaulted Sweeney Todd's wife, which was basically the main thing. Was Sweeney Todd was going out for revenge, was going out for revenge for being falsely accused, but not knowing that his wife was still alive. Although technically this is a double revenge because the judge was the one who did the setup, but it was Mrs. Lovett who was the one who made the finishing blow of lying to Sweeney Todd, which probably explains why Sweeney Todd threw Mrs. Lovett in an oven, burning her alive. Talk about now. You may have heard the quote: "Revenge is a dish best served cold." But in that moment when Sweeney Todd threw her in that oven, burning alive, this is revenge burnt to a crisp. Moving forward, number 4. Edward Scissorhands kills Jim from Edward Scissorhands. Yep, we got another Tim Burton film on the line with Johnny Depp once more. In fact, this is actually Johnny Depp's first Tim Burton film, I believe, playing the title character. Now, this is basically in the final scene as well. Now, Jim, played by Anthony Michael Hall, gets into a fight with Edward Scissorhands after a neighborhood incident involving Kevin, because Kevin was accidentally attacked by Edward Scissorhands. Technically Edward was saving Kevin from a car accident that Jim was driving, but knowing that Edward has scissors for hands, he cuts Kevin. But flash forward to a scene later, Jim is fighting Edward. Edward struggles to fight back, but Kim, played by Winona Ryder, tries to stop the fight, but Jim refuses to stop the fight, especially when Jim brought the ceiling down on Edward. So yeah, and then as Jim orders Edward to back off from Kim, Edward stabs Jim in the chest, setting him falling out of a window to his death. Literally like that. Oh my goodness. It is a quick fight, but at the very end, like Edward Scissorhands was not playing around at that moment. Jim was a bad influence, not only towards him, but also towards Kim. Because Jim literally sets Edward up during a robbing incident where Jim traps Edward inside a room, which has an alarm system to it earlier in the scene, indicating that Edward was set up by Jim. And wow, in that moment where Edward sends Jim to his death, that was a dark and scary moment for not only for him, but also for Edward Scissorhands. Because, wow, that was just messed up. Moving forward, number 3, Freddy Krueger kills Glenn Lance from A Nightmare on Elm Street. Speaking of having scissors for hands, how about Freddy Krueger, but with one hand? That's right. If you think, yep. What long before Edward Scissorhands, where Edward has both hands for scissors, Johnny Depp plays Glenn Lance and was arguably one of his first ever movie roles for Hollywood. And this is like A Nightmare on Elm Street. There is one scene. Now this scene is pretty short, but it is dark and scary too. Glenn Lance is sleeping for the night, but what he doesn't realize is that Freddy Krueger is here. Because once the kids sleep, you know who's coming in for a nightmare. That is right, Freddy Krueger. Freddy Krueger comes from under the bed, grabs Glenn, and he gets sucked into his own bed. Later on, the bed turns into a blowhole, spouting blood all over the room, and it even shocked Glenn's mother, seeing all the blood. Even Nancy freaks out about the death of Glenn too, because the scene also cuts back to Nancy as well. Nancy is also the friend to Glenn as well. So, and Nancy has seen Freddy Krueger in her own nightmares as well. This is a scary moment to come out of Nightmare on Elm Street, and one of the more brutal kills from Freddy Krueger. Moving on, number 2, The crows attack the kids, from Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. The master of suspense, Alfred Hitchcock, takes the number 2 list. And quite honestly, let me be honest with you, Psycho remains as one of the best horror films out there, particularly in the moments with the shower scene. But for his next film, the birds, he literally uses birds, like actual birds. Now in this scene where the crows attack the kids, Melanie escorts the kids out of school because, well, actually I actually don't know the reason why she escorts the kids out of school, or I think the obvious reason because the birds are going to be attacking, which I'm pretty sure that's the reason. And the now she and the kids run, and while they're running, the crows are sitting on the jungle gym ready to attack, and they do. They all swarm high in the sky, and zooming in and diving towards the kids, trying to peck them out. Hell, these many of the kids were getting pecked by these crows. And and for those of you who may or may not notice, there are definitely special effects involved with this scene. Like some of the crows were actually real. Some of them were actually mechanical. Other ones were special effects. That was like a mixed bag right there. And it's scary to know, like, these are little kids getting attacked by birds. Like, they're getting attacked. I mean, hey, this is the master of suspense himself, Alfred Hitchcock. I mean, the special, and in fact, here's the thing about the special effects. The special effects artist and a Disney animator, and if I'm saying his name correctly, Iwerks, was nominated for an Oscar for his best special effects, and that really shows. And at the end of the scene, Melanie helps one of the kids to safety from the attack inside a car, and Melanie was able to scare off the crows by pushing down the car horn. Now I know what you all be thinking. What could be my number one scariest movie moments for part 3? Well, before I get into that, let's go into honorable mentions. Opening the Ark for Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. The scene which features the opening of the Ark actually is not only dark and scary because the Germans, including Belloc, opened the Ark, but what he doesn't know is that opening the Ark would kill them if you open the Ark and not have your eyes shut. Actually scarred me when I saw this for the first time. It was a scary moment. But yeah, unfortunately, Belloc and his men did not heed the warning, and yep, that's what happened. They died by opening the Ark. She wouldn't even harm a fly from Psycho. Yep, Alfred Hitchcock is back on for an honorable mention, but it's the ending moments when Norman Bates is in custody, and there's like an inner monologue from his mother with a quote stating that she wouldn't even harm a fly. Like, that quote alone is pretty creepy. But what really buys this scene is the facial grin from Norman Bates, being played by Anthony Perkins. That is literally a creepy ending right there. It also describes Norman Bates' past too, like his behavior, basically his past behavior. But what's also scary is that if you pause at the moment when the shot transitions to the car being towed out of the swamp, you can actually see a glowing teeth from Norman Bates' mouth. If you pause at the moment when the transition starts, you can see the glowing teeth. That is scary as well. Mufasa's death and Scar's betrayal from The Lion King. Yep, another Disney film, but this time as an honorable mention. Scar betrays his brother Mufasa as he sends Mufasa to his death in a wildebeest stampede. And to quote this, Long live the king. And then Scar not only did Scar betray his brother, but he also betrayed his nephew Simba, as he tells Simba to run away and never return, and sends his hyenas to stop Simba. Oof. Yep, that is a dark moment too. All dogs go to hell, from all dogs go to heaven. Don Bluth is no The animator Don Bluth is no stranger to darkest and scariest movie moments. The scene for All Dogs Go to Heaven sees Charlie having a nightmare, being sent to hell, and that is literally and that sequence alone sees him getting attacked by little demon dogs and almost being sunk into lava by the boat as he's descending into hell. Well, thankfully, it's a nightmare, but boy, that scene alone in a kids' movie is sure scary. Zombie Doctor Strange controls the demons from Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Okay, particularly that moment is basically an Evil Dead moment, an Evil Dead like movie moment, but still, it is a pretty creepy scene to know that Doctor Strange is now controlling the demons to turn as a cloak, to turn the demons into his very own cloak, like a demon cloak. Not only is that cool, but it's creepy and scary at the same time. Gozer Reborn from Ghostbusters Afterlife. This this moment actually surprises me because I didn't even think we would see Gozer return to the Ghostbusters world, even though Gozer was in the first film for a brief moment, but we see a little more of Gozer in the Ghostbusters Afterlife film, where Gozer crawls out of the pit in a scary like fashion with the organ playing in the background, showing this scary moment. Wow. Okay, and now we go into our number one darkest and scariest movie moment. Are you ready? And the number one darkest and scariest movie moment for part 3 is Wendy Torrance's hallway terror from The Shining. Yep, there's definitely moments from The Shining that never cease to scare me. Now this moment really surprised me. When I saw this for the first time on DVD, and I was sitting in a classroom, it literally shocked me. Is when Wendy was trying to find his son, her son Danny. She goes back upstairs, but noticing all the crazy terror and evil stuff that is going on. In complete shock. She sees the elevator open with all the blood coming out of the elevator. She even calls up the stairs. Well, actually, no. She goes into one of the lobbies and sees a hotel guest that has blood in the middle of his forehead, having a drink in his hand, asking, "Hey, a cool party, right?" She is scared, runs away, runs upstairs, and sees what actually appears to be two guests. One of them dressed up as a bear, and the other guy just sitting on the bed doing something. I mean, I don't know the point of that moment, but it was in the film. But on top of that, Wendy goes into a conference room and sees dead bodies, actual dead skeleton bodies, and she freaks out. What makes this scene ultimately scary is the music. The music really sets the tension for this scene. The music the music for The Shining was provided by Wendy Carlos, or by Wendy Carlos, and this is basically electronic music being played in this film. This film came out in 1980, and Wendy Carlos, along with Rachel Elkin, used electronic music for this scene, and that really shows the creepiness and scary terror that is being played, and that is why Wendy Torrance's hallway terror from The Shining is my number one for the top 10 darkest and scariest movie moments, part 3. So anyway, there you have it. What do y'all think? Am I missing out on a few moments? Do you like this list? Do you have different thoughts and opinions on this list? Please let me know. Please let me know in the comments, and please keep the comments positive. So, anyway, I'm gonna catch some shut eye right now because, wow, there was a lot to talk about. So that deserves a little good night's rest for me. So, anyway, thank you all for tuning in to Codo Cinema. I'm your host, Mark Codo, aka Codo Man. Remember to watch movies, stay positive, and good night. Until next week. And now, I'm gonna get some shut eye.
Getting some shut eye, are you, Codo Man? well, are you ready for Codo Kruger? Because Codo Kruger is coming for you.